Now that I have all the catacomb stuff painted for the Warcry catacomb set, I started working on some of the exterior scenery here, and I just wanted to talk about a couple of things that helped me paint this stuff, and hopefully these things will help you out too, not only by painting this set, but by painting other things as well. This is the Be a Hero Gaming channel, where we talk about all things games, how to have a good time playing games, including modeling for some of the games, and also how you can be a hero in real life. So my goal in painting anything for a game is, how can I make it look the best? This is probably everybody's goal. I'm probably not the only one. How can I make it look the best on the game board and take the least amount of time painting it? Because like I talked about in one of my other videos, in the 90s in high school, I spent a lot of time painting and really zero time playing. I really didn't play Warhammer at all. I just painted a ton of miniatures, and here I am again, 20 some years later, painting again, but now I want to play. So how can I get this stuff painted up in the most efficient way possible and also have it look halfway decent? Well, I'm going to talk about one of those things I did accidentally and made it look really good, but that should be our goal in life too. If there's something that we're doing where we feel like we're spending a lot of time doing something that is not giving us that much of a result, try to find a way to do it more efficiently, or maybe not do it at all. Eliminate some things from your life that are not bringing you joy and are not making you productive. Just eliminate those things, or change the processes to make them as efficient as possible. So that's what I want to talk about with this stuff here. And you can see some of the stuff is not completely painted, and I just want to kind of show you the steps I took to paint this stuff. And hopefully you can figure out some methods, whether it's this stuff or other stuff you're painting, to get it painted up quick and get it on the battlefield. I did a short about the wood, but let me just talk about this briefly here. Let me hold this up. I struggled with wood for a long time and could not figure out a good recipe for painting wood. And again, just experimented with things, painted, repainted, and again, just for a general wood, this is something I really like. This isn't really that aged or anything, or looking gray or mossy or anything. It's just kind of a basic wood. And the way I did this was primed in just plain gray. As you can see back here, kind of this medium gray color is how I primed this. And the first thing I did after it was primed is I put a coat of dark wood speed paint on it and let that dry. I couldn't find any dark colors that I liked from the regular paints. And so I saw this sitting up on my shelf, and I've been neglecting to use these. And I thought, let me give this a try. So this is the first of the speed paints that I used with this dark wood. So I painted this with dark wood. And then after that, it's kind of up to you, but I used these three colors after that: leather brown, desert yellow, and skeleton bone. And I would start with this one and then go to desert yellow and to skeleton bone. But the cool thing is, if you find yourself highlighting with this color and then this color next to you, and it got too yellow for your liking, you can maybe make it a little bit lighter, or you can go back to this. And that was just a dry brush on this. And you can see I made this pretty yellow with a couple of spots where I dabbed a little bit of, skeleton bone just to kind of highlight some of the edges. But the cool thing is, you can go back to the other colors if you like. So if you find it getting too yellow or even too white, you put a little bit too much of the skeleton bone on there, and you think, you know what, I want to go back to a little more brown. Then you dry brush a little bit more leather brown on there, and it'll brown it up a little bit more and kind of get rid of that white or the yellow. So again, I started with the leather brown and then went to desert yellow and then skeleton bone, just kind of lighten it up a little bit. But you can use whatever colors you like, depending on whether you want it to look more yellow or lighter, or a little bit darker with just the brown. And one thing that I figured out with this is I was finding that I was just going from a dark brown to a light brown, and it just looked weird. It looked off, like it was flat, like it needed something else. And if you add something with some color in it, it will really help the wood stand out. This little bit of yellow in here really makes the wood stand out a little bit better than you would if you just used a lighter brown. So that's the wood colors on here. The next thing I want to talk about is this bell. And I watched a lot of videos on painting Warcry terrain, but they all just seem so complicated. You can see here, this got pretty yellow there. If you don't like that, you can lighten that up or darken it up with your other colors. They just seem so complicated on painting these, and I thought there's got to be an easier way to paint that and still make it look good. And so this, I actually kind of just experimented with this, and it ended up looking okay. I kind of surprised myself. But what I did with this bell here is I started out by painting it with true copper, the whole thing. This color was a little bit kind of opaque, kind of see-through, so I took a couple of coats of this to get it coated. You could also probably use a bronze if you wanted to, or even a gold, kind of whatever, however you want this to kind of come out here. After I painted it with a copper, I thought, you know, I don't know if you can quite see that, but it's a little bit, the tarnish is a little bit see-through. And the way I achieved that was I did not have a good teal color for this, so I ended up mixing these two colors, Wizard Robe and Void Shield Blue. And again, I don't know the proportions. I just mixed it till I felt like it looked like a kind of a greenish blue color. If it seemed too dark, I'd add more Void Shield Blue. And if it seemed like it was getting too light, I put a little more Wizard's Robe in there until I was happy with the color. And then I watered it way down. I mean, I was mixing it up on my wet palette, and it was just like watery. I had a couple of dabs full of, brushes full of water in there, so it was really watery. And then as I dabbed it into here, almost like a wash, it just filled in the cracks. And same thing down here on these letters. And then I ended up just putting a really thin coat over the whole thing. And like I said, you can kind of still see the gold through that, the bronze a little bit through there. And again, that's because it was so watery. Watered it down really well to get this kind of see-through finish on there. And then I went back to the, I said bronze, back to the copper, and I just dry brushed a little bit of that copper over this emblem here, over the letters and the bolts, just to make those stand out a little bit more, because once I put the thin coat on, everything was covered. And so the dry brush of the copper kind of made these bolts, the letters, and that emblem stand out just a little bit more. I might have even done it on the outside, but I can't remember if I did that or not, but just on the edges there. But this way, with it really watered down, you get kind of that see-through look where it looks like it's starting to tarnish, but is not quite there yet. Now, the next thing is this green stuff, and this is where I kind of, the green ruins here. This is where I kind of accidentally did this. Again, I was trying to think about a really easy way to do this that wasn't going to take a ton of work, and in fact, it is only 3 colors aside from the primer. And what I did was I noticed in other people's videos and in a manual, this was kind of a pale green color. And I looked at the board here, this green on the board, and I thought I kind of want it kind of dark to match this. But then I didn't want to get a contrast paint out and contrast paint the whole thing. I thought there's got to be what is there an easier way to do that? I don't know if a wash is easier than a contrast paint. Maybe it's about the same. What I ended up doing was, in order to make the details of the green stand out a little bit better, I dry brushed the gray primer with a lighter gray. And you can see that right here in this piece here, on this wood here. And I actually did not do this to the other wood, but I thought, hey, maybe when I put that brown contrast on there, the lighter edges will stand out a little bit better. So this is what the gray primer looks like, with a little bit of light gray, this ash gray color, to dry brush the gray primer. Then after that, I coated the whole thing with a green wash. And this is what that looks like. And you can see here, these pillars are a little bit lighter because of the dry brush of the gray on there, and kind of the outside, the edges of this here are a little bit lighter from that dry brush. But I coated the entire thing with this green wash. And because of the gray, it kind of dulled it a little bit, made it kind of a green-gray color. And then this looked a little bit strong, so I went back after it was dried and dry brushed it with some skeleton bone. Again, instead of going with a lighter green, I went for something that had a little bit of brown in it to kind of warm up the tones and lighten it up a little bit. And I can kind of show you what that looks like here after. And that's what we get with this one here. So this is with a little bit of dry brush from the skeleton bone. Here's the top of it here. And here's the comparison. I'll hold these up to both these together here so you can kind of see both of these. Here's what the two look like together there. And you can see how the skeleton bone lightened it up a little bit, made the green so it wasn't quite so dark and quite so harsh. Let's see if we can get this too here. So it kind of warmed it up just a little bit. Now, after I did that, I thought, you know what? As I put it down on the board here, it is lighter than this green on the board. And I thought, man, maybe I should go back and do this again and make it darker. Well, I opened up the rules book again, and this is almost the exact color of the scenery in the rule book, and kind of just accidentally made it like this. Again, really simple. Gray primer, a dry brush of ash gray, cover the whole thing with some green tone, and then afterwards a dry brush with skeleton bone. And it warms it right up. And like I said, it looks almost just like the terrain in the rule book. So really happy with the way this turned out, kind of accidental, but it turned out really good. Then just more of the wood on this piece here. So, and here's some of these pieces here too. I talked a little bit about simplicity when I talked about my warband here, the Scions of the Flame that I painted. And that's kind of what I did with this too. Again, I didn't want this piece to take away from the armies. And so could I have painted all these individual pots on here? Probably. But I thought, I'm just going to do this the green and paint the bones. And this is done. And then same thing with the fountain here. There's probably a lot more I could have done to this, but I painted the fountain and these little metal handles on it. And that was it. Just number one, to get this piece onto the battlefield. And once it's down here, it adds some texture and variety. It doesn't take away too much from the models, and was really quick to get painted up and get down here. This piece here was just ruined, so I didn't really have to do anything to this. But again, I was really surprised in how I accidentally made this look just like it does in the rule book. So I hope that's helpful for you with, again, the ruins, the wood. And again, this too turned out really well, this bell, and wasn't very hard to make at all. The bones here, I did a short on the bones as well. This is just skeleton bone with a soft tone wash, and then dry brush with skeleton bone, dry brush with skull white to get the bones here. Depending on how light you want them to turn out, you can do a little bit more of the white or less of the white. You can just dry brush skeleton bone if you want them to look kind of aged and brownish and not actually do the white. But I hope that's helpful. Again, remember that in all of your processes, if there's something that's complicated, that's not giving you a very good result, try to simplify it. And if you have any tips for me as I continue to paint up the rest of this stuff, I haven't gotten to the little spiky walls and the wooden bridges. I haven't done those yet. If you have any tips for me on painting those, I've never painted anything like that before, and so I'd love to hear what you have to say. But I hope this is helpful for you painting your Warcry terrain or anything else, to make it as simple as possible, but also make it look good. Think about that for your processes in your life too. Try to simplify things so they don't take up as much of your time, so you got more time to play games, but you also get a good result from them. You guys be heroes out there, and take care.